Hello, this is Paul Chek. Welcome back to my video blogs. Today I thought I'd share a concept with you that is called rhythmic stabilization. Rhythmic stabilization is a technique I learned many years ago studying the sciences of orthopedic rehabilitation. And rhythmic stabilization is a concept that's very, very useful when people have joint injuries, joint instabilities, ligament injuries, or tendon injuries. And you can use low levels of intensity or light loading in a rhythmic fashion. So for example, if we look at this body blade here, to make the body blade go, let's say I had an injured shoulder, an injured rotator cuff, by oscillating the blade back and forth, what happens is when I push the blade forward, which makes it do that, I'm activating the agonist muscle, and then the antagonist works to control the movement of the joint, but as soon as I pull backwards, the antagonist becomes the agonist or the working muscle, and so they flip back and forth from working and controlling to controlling, or from working and controlling to working and controlling. So there's a constant oscillation between the muscles on either side of a joint in their roles and primary functions, but what happens is it sets up a pumping mechanism. So for example, if I had a joint capsule injury, the capsules and ligaments and tendons don't get a lot of blood supply, so we want to be able to use low intensities but pump the muscle to bring a lot of blood in and pump the lymphatic system and remove waste out so that the tissues heal faster. So when we're setting up this rhythmic oscillation, and this doesn't take a lot of pressure at all, there's bigger body blades that can make you work much harder, and we can move through various positions. Now the technique that I use quite often with people is if they have a painful range, so let's say their arm hurts when they're at end range of motion, what I would do is I would just move to the point where they find comfort and use a light enough load that they can do this for 1 to 3 minutes at least to get some aerobic activity. Typically people will get tired after about 3 minutes, even at low intensities, unless you've got a very, very light level of resistance. Now you can create lighter levels of resistance. Some of the things that I've done is just taken a jar, like a mason jar, and just put a little bit of water in it, and even have them shake the water circularly and make little tornadoes in it, or go the other way. You can take a tennis ball, poke a hole in it, put a piece of stretch cord in it, and then just swing the tennis ball at whatever intensity you want. That creates rhythmic stabilization. You can use it also very effectively, particularly useful for identifying differences or discrepancies between the dominant hand and the subdominant hand. In my case, I'm right-handed. Now, it just so happens that I've had a very bad injury in my left shoulder when I was in the 82nd Airborne Division on a training drill. Some not so wise Marine, I was doing a joint military exercise with the Marines, and some of the recon rangers are pretty crazy, and one of them kicked me out the door before it was time to go, and my static line got wrapped underneath my arm, and so when my chute opened, it almost ripped my arm right out of the socket. So I have a multi-directional instability in that shoulder, so I can use the body blade, I can feel how easy it is to move it in different planes. It's very easy, I don't even have to think about it, I can pretty much do it anywhere. But then when I put it in my left hand, I've been practicing a lot over the years, so it's not so hard, but I can feel like right there, I have to focus my brain to make that keep going. It wants to stop and it's harder to coordinate. So what we can do when we're training ourselves, or if you're training athletes, is you can use these types of techniques and compare the dominant to the subdominant arm, identify areas where the motor system needs more development. And this is important because when you're in a number of sports, for example, boxing or martial arts, if you tend to be one side dominant, you get sport-specific muscle imbalances that creates torsion around joints. And that left-right asymmetry leads to problems later on. Now you can take the body blade and any of these rhythmic stabilization devices and you can incorporate the Swiss ball, and that creates more of a global stabilization effect. So you can do core stability work here, etc. Really, it's up to your imagination. There's a lot of things you can do. Now, of course, there's a science to doing this correctly. It's not just flying off into your box of how wild can I get, but the skills that I teach you in the Chek exercise coach and Chek practitioner program give you the assessment tools and the specific knowledge you need to know how to apply everything in my blogs, that in the HLC program, and tons more with precision accuracy. So you use exercise and health and food and sleep and all that like a surgeon uses his or her scalpel. Now, just to give you a quick example of some other concepts, these are tubes that have sand in them, and you can do the same kind of thing with them. Just a different method. You can get these at fitterfirst.com. Now, for more hardcore training, I have Swiss balls that I filled up with water to different degrees. I have them at different weights. Unfortunately, I've never seen a professional filling kit for these, but we went to the hardware store and kind of handmade a filling device. But this one I think weighs 60 pounds if I remember right. So we can pick that up, and now I can make the water go around in a circle. Or the other way. Now, if you feel a discrepancy between one direction and the other, then you know where you need to do your work. You can just shake it. So there's some options for you there. So, in summary, rhythmic stabilization training can be used from very light loads all the way up to progressively heavier, more intense conditioning loads. It's a great tool for working with instabilities. It's also a great tool for injuries because it allows you to oscillate contractions of the muscles around a joint, which helps remove toxic fluids out with metabolic byproducts, things like hyaluronic acid and other things that irritate the tissues. And it can bring nutrition, oxygen, and blood in, and either of those activities of the rhythmic stabilization aid the lymphatic system to removing dead proteins and other things by which you remove and support the immune system, because the lymphatic system is a system the immune system uses to remove debris from the body. So have fun. I recommend that you do not do these kinds of exercises to fatigue before you go do other traditional weightlifting exercises, because it will fatigue your stabilizers, and that leaves you set up for trouble. So stabilizer training, if you're going to bring it to fatigue, should always be done after your other training, unless you are specifically using an exercise to excite a stabilizer system. Then you can do it for excitation prior to training, but you got to be careful not to take too much gas out of the tank, or you can end up with bigger problems than when you started. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Paul Chek. If you want to learn a lot more about this kind of stuff, look at my scientific core conditioning correspondence course and my scientific back training correspondence course. If you want to learn how to design programs better, I have 2 comprehensive courses on program design and advanced program design, which is quite advanced. And of course, you can come take exercise coach with one of our highly skilled instructors and begin your journey to becoming a Chek professional. Thanks for joining me. Look forward to sharing with you more real soon.